thanks for being part of the show tonight. Congratulations.
Thanks very much, and yeah, it's a pleasure to be on your show. And good evening to all the viewers. And gee, what an honour it is there to be with Butch Castles and Paul Shaler and yourself.
Well, thank you very much. Look, before we talk about Saturday, this bloke was purchased out of Karaka for $190,000. What was the appeal about him at the sales, Chris?
Oh, there's a bloodstock agent over there by the name of Guy Mulcaster. Not many people would have heard of him. I guess the best way to describe him is he's a middle-aged bloodstock agent with ginger sideboards. And forget what he looks like. He's always got a striped shirt. He's probably playing golf more than he's looking at horses, but he certainly knows what he's doing. And he said, Chris, you got to take this one home no matter what it costs. And we actually picked it up at a pretty good price.
Chris Butch here, he was part of a syndicate that you guys put together specifically aimed at races like this, and it must be so satisfying to get a result early with these horses. Sure
is, Butch. Yeah, look, you can't deny that the New Zealand bred stayers are clearly superior. We see a lot of European horses coming into Australia now, and these horses, they lose 6 months when they turn up on the Australian shores. So basically you need a 2-year-old from England to win an Australian derby. It can't happen. So we've got to focus on New Zealand, and that's what we did. And to pull it off at the first attempt, it was pretty special.
It was a nice way to break his maiden, Chris.
Sure was. There's a long way from Fox's maiden, that's for sure.
He's a one winner with nearly $1 million in the bank.
Yeah, it sure is. And as you touched on earlier, being a son of Zabeel, who's now retired, I think there's a little bit left in store, and certainly going to put his value up, and we'll do everything we can to promote him as well.
Chris, the Geelong Classic lead-up run was really good. Came home really, particularly the last 100 metres was very, very good. You toyed with putting the blinkers on him for the Derby on Saturday. What put you off?
Not sure really. Just it worked. It was a guess, and it worked out pretty right. He didn't need much. He just needed racing, I think, and the blinkers were probably a bit of an overkill. And Ollie thought on a big day it might just make him fire up a little bit. And 3 wide without cover the whole trip. He had no cover. He settled beautifully. And I think that was the winning of the race. He at least got into, well, not the winning of the race, but he at least got into a nice rhythm and didn't need the blinkers. Blinkers did the trick.
He was very strong to the line as well, Chris. He's always been a mature 3-year-old. Has he always been ahead of the others as far as getting towards a derby goes?
Yeah, he just hasn't left a note, so to speak, and hasn't missed a beat. And it's very hard to prepare them so early in the season. I believe they've got to race as late 2-year-olds, which is what he did. He came from New Zealand. We leave a few horses over there in very good care, including the man Paul Shaler there, does a fantastic job. And guys like him prepare these horses for us and make me look good. And I think that's a big part of the success as well, is looking after them well in New Zealand and not letting us Australian trainers get our hands on them too early, because we start getting tempted pretty quick over here.
Chris, you alluded to the fact on Saturday that to win these big races in Flemington, it's very important that it's their grand final and that they're targeted for these races specifically. Afterthoughts are generally very difficult at Flemington, aren't they? It's the cream de la cream.
Yeah, in the early days, we were just scraping up horses and taking what we could, and you get placings that you wouldn't win races, let alone the big races. So we've learnt just to specifically target them. And when you've got a big team, you can. A small team, like when we first started, it was hard. We tried to have a representation, and it was difficult. But now we've got such a big team, we can have a pretty good presence in most carnivals, yet still keep the flag flying at home.
Let's talk about a couple of the other performances on the day there on Saturday, Chris. First of all, back-to-back wins for you in the Coolmore and the Quinella to boot.
Yeah, the Coolmore is probably the most prestigious race to win, actually, on Derby Day. preferment wins the Derby that they're all the race is named after, or the later names that the race is named after. And so the Coolmore probably turned them into an $8 to $10 million commodity. So a Gilding ran second in delectation. It was certainly the right result for the stable in terms of value. And he's a very good colt and good strong horse and good attitude. And likewise, what you were touching on before, Paul, being set for the race, it worked with us last year as Zoostar when we won the race. And we won the Roman Consul 4 weeks prior and came down to Flemington for a jump out up the straight and just getting things prepared properly, and it worked out well.
Chris, I don't imagine it's a coincidence, but when you go back through the record of both Zoostar and, of course, this bloke Brazen Bow, they'd both wintered in Queensland. They'd gone up there. They'd both run second in the Group 1 JJ Atkins. That must do them the world of good to come back and then attack these spring races.
Does me the world of good, Butcher. They also can't train 2-year-olds yet. We've turned a couple of colts into $10 million plus horses by, and even throw Sacred Falls in there. He was more a ready-made horse when he came to me. But it's not just about 2-year-old racing. All those 3 colts have won, and now Preferment have won good Group 1 racing.
You're having some luck with Joe Moreira, Chrissy.
Yeah, he's a good boy. He can ride. He's similar to you. You're a very similar style to you.
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking about me when I rode Ocean Run for you in the Waipuck Cup. I had a good style about me, didn't I?
Yeah.
Long way from Flemington.
And a long way from Taranaki too.
My word.
So, he's a great jockey. They call him the Magic Man. You hear about these jockeys and see them riding, I guess, on the TV. But when you actually get the chance to work with them, it's not hard to see why they're so successful, and they quite simply run for him. He did get caught out 3 wide in the McKinnon on Who's Your Man, got better nose, but we forgave him for that with the big result with Brazen Bow.
He had a super result earlier in the day too, Chris, with Kermadec. Tell us about him.
He was bought by Guy Mulcaster. And Guy's just finishing another interview now, eating his bacon eggs while he's getting his sideburns tidied up. And very smart horse. He's a horse he was got from the practice sales by Teofilo, and he's certainly a colt for the autumn. He'll be a hitting horse for sure, and did that at his 3rd start and aided by 10 out of 10 ride from Blakeston.
He's owned by someone that's been with you for a long time as well, of course, Rangi Rangdu, and those colours must have been great to get a result for Neville on Derby Day.
Yeah, Derby Day for Australian owners is huge. It's the day of the year they all want to be there, and to get a result for Nev and Jenny was fantastic, and I don't think it'll stop there. I think they'll have a bit of fun with him.
Look, we really appreciate you being on Weigh In today. Chris, time has sort of ticked on for us, but we did want to touch on your 3 runners in the Melbourne Cup tomorrow, and keen to get your brief thoughts on each of them. Janoob, Who Shot the Barman, and Opinion.
They'll need to go to a career best to win. The one thing I'll say about Who Shot the Barman is a 2-mile winner, and obviously the Group 1 Auckland Cup. 15 years ago, I reckon he'd be the horse to beat, but the race has sort of changed complexion a little bit now with the weights being compressed and more like being a weight for age race. So he'll have his work cut out, but we know he'll stay the 2 miles. Forget his run in the Caulfield Cup. He struggled around the Caulfield track, so back to Flemington where he's won 2 races this prep. He's got a good rough chance. The other 2 are going all right. The next hot winner, Janoob, he'll be competitive, and hopefully he can go to one better. And Opinion, he's run 2 Group 1 seconds in the last 6 months, so he's again a good rough chance.
Good luck, Chrissy.
Thanks, Chris.
Boys. See ya.
Thank you very much.